Hello and welcome
Fine.
back. Today I'm joined by yet another individual to talk about their army, but today I'm joined by the Amber King, also known as Hal, as he's told me.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Excited to bring people in to, in fact, the greatest army to play in Warhammer. Everybody else is the wrong choice. We're here to talk about fun stuff, magic, depression, because these guys' lore is depressing as well. But generally, also the army where if you are playing against someone, they groan if they know that you're playing against Thousand Suns.
They get ready for a light dusting, as it were.
Oh, too soon, bro. Too soon.
Okay, so I guess first off, how long have you been playing this army?
Yeah, so I've dabbled in Warhammer for I guess like I think a lot of people's story is kind of similar to mine, where they played it as a kid, didn't really know what was happening, didn't know what was going on. It wasn't their own money, you had But now I'm older, wiser, and I've got bills. So I picked up again as an adult, and I played in the end of ninth edition, which I think a lot of people. By the way, I hadn't played Warhammer for like ages, so this was quite the trial by fire. If anyone knows anything about, first of all, ninth edition, and then secondly, the Thousand Suns, which obviously is known for their magic. So it was kind of tail end of ninth, and I was playing with my friend who kind of got me back into Warhammer. We're doing like small point games, and I was just trying my best. I promise you, brother, I was trying my absolute best to wrap my head around the absolute crazy thing, like the possibilities you could do, particularly with this army, because even in 10th edition, it's not the simplest, but it still was quite a lot of fun. And I had that old combat patrol. Do you know which one I'm talking about with like 20s angles? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Is that the one that was at the start of 10th, the Zangor box?
I think it was, yeah. Like, or no, it might have been a bit earlier. People had to double check us on that, but it was the one where you could like it had an Infernal Master, it had 20 Zangors, and then it had 5 Scarab called Terminators, and and then I also had an Ahriman. So I was starting off with that basically in ninth edition, and it was very very fun to get wiped immediately because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, it does strike me as one of the. I don't want to say super high skill armies because it does have a lot of technical play, but I feel like once you start to grasp it, you're sort of going through the motions, so to speak. Like it feels like you have things like a sort of Oath of Moment, and well, I guess it's more 10th now, isn't it? But maybe ninth,
Mm.
I guess, is probably a different beast. But in 10th, it feels like the rules are complex to learn, but once you understand them, you sort of are repeating similar steps most games. But I could be wrong.
It's if I'm doing this video correctly, which is I'm trying to get people into this army. I will say that the best part about Thousand Suns is generally the models are pretty nice, but secondly, about like in general play style, you have like gimmicks, you have something to like for almost every situation in some sense. And I like in other armies that they specialize. Obviously, most armies are specializing in some kind of formal manner. Like obviously Blood Angels running in, and probably the Corn players also doing the same thing whilst also doing press ups next to the table. If I believe that rumor or that story was true,
Is
but
this the shadow boxing one?
yeah, it might have been that guy, the shadow boxing Corn guy. But yeah, Thousand Suns have like you have an ability to not always be caught out, but yeah, some way to rescue yourself, some way to do really high damage, which people hopefully, it's fun doing a lot, making your opponent cry and doing a ridiculous amount of wounds and re-rolling everything all the time, basically. And there's always some kind of shenanigans, but there's also a kind of I would say not gambling, that's the wrong way to put it, but there's a risk and reward sense to it because there's always a way to you can get more power, but there's going to be a price that you pay for that power.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely on the pricier end of things that are marine shaped. Um,
Oh, definitely, yeah. But I would say the biggest benefit for people who maybe want to get into Thousand Suns as well. It's probably one of the cheapest armies to buy because God loves a trier when it comes to ruining our bank accounts when playing this this funny little plastic men game. So Thousand Suns are very high in points cost in the game, so you can actually basically get to a 2K army for almost half the price compared to what someone else is playing for imagine playing guard and the amount. I'm pretty sure if I looked up recently, it's like about 600 quid to get most 2K armies. Whereas with 1,000 suns, you could do that for half. So and then there's also discount and other things going on. But and again, cool units. Sorry, I do gush about these guys. I do love them.
Oh, you're
But
fine. You
yeah,
just
yeah.
you're just very much preaching to the choir here. I own an AdMech army and have many regrets.
Yeah, they're pretty. I'm not willing to spend too much money, I think, going forward these days on Warhammer, but I will happily, you know, discount box set, which I'm getting. I think if you look on our most recent box sets, they are like almost 1,000 points, where everyone else is like 600 points or 500, and God forbid, other armies. So that is a big advantage, guys. The gate, the poor financial gate you cross over to play more Warhammer is more accessible with Thousand Suns. So absolutely do check them out. Hope you guys do. But we're probably gonna get more into like their playstyle stuff, which I probably should have mentioned first. But in terms of that's a big thing I think for people who are playing Warhammer. A lot of us do look at the financial side of other things, and as an elite army, this one is a definite fun one. It's not hemmed into anything too. You don't have to play it one way exactly the same way every time. You can play this one. You've got tricks. You've got things you can do, and again, cannot be understated how much other people hate playing against you. So enjoying that is a big bonus.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess for those of you who are coming from Amaking or Hal's channel and haven't seen this series of videos before, I've been talking with a bunch of different people about a bunch of different armies and sort of first off selling people on them because people love to talk about their army, but then also sort of going through and analysing and breaking down what could be done better about them going forward into like 11th and like hopes and stuff like that. So we can go through all the attachments and stuff like we have previously on some of these videos as well. So I'm sure we'll get into the nitty gritty of like the technical side of things as well.
Hell yeah.
I guess since you started in 9th, what's your general opinions about moving from 9th to 10th as this army?
See, I get this a bit of jip from people because as going from someone who was like learning ninth edition to was the tail end of it, then having to start 10th, it was so much easier, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, you miss out on some of the depth of Warhammer games. I promise you, Warhammer is not. If you try to teach Warhammer to someone, it's not the easiest game to get right all the time. Like I'm still getting rules wrong occasionally, even now. But like generally, the switch over to like they kept a lot of things from ninth. So for General Thousand Suns, they had like a resource called Cabal Points, and this was generated by our lovely sorcerers. Adding in a little bit of lore tidbit here. The Thousand Suns are basically, as the jokes always go, they are all dust because the Rubric Marines are basically turned into automaton dust boys inside their armor, and only like the sergeants, your leaders, your sorcerers, and the big boy Magnus himself. These are the only things that they're empowered in lore by that ritual, which reflects on the tabletop because they are pretty deadly sorcerers, and as they say, and their psychic is pretty horrible. I think I did see in a previous Pancreas No Work Collins thing about they lost the psychic phase. And you know what? I didn't mourn it that much. I didn't mourn it that much because we slightly retained it in A Thousand Suns. I think we may be the only army that kind of really did retain the psychic phase in some sense. There's a small little buff at the beginning of the shooting phase where we get to do spells again. So I found it a lot easier to make the transition over, and it still had a lot of army flavor. Beginning of 10th, a lot of our sorcerers were very powerful, but they're also quite high like cost. So if I'm remembering off the top of my head, like Ahriman was like something like maybe even 150, 130 points or something. The sorcerer is like 100 points, and everybody is really expensive. And which fair again for making a cheaper army on tabletop is great, but it was very basically the army got sort of functioned around the sorcerers are your damage dealers, not like other units, like just your sorcerers, and you only need rubric marines to essentially be your bodyguards slash to take wounds for them, or like give them access to other buffs. So it was very much a sorcerer heavy beginning of 10th edition. a lot of our guys were very high damage dealers in their shooting. Particularly, shout out to my beloved Infernal Master, who was one of the newer models, sort of around like I think ninth he came out, and it's a very cool model, and I have two of them because I love them. I even gave one of them like I cut off Mephiston's blade and I put him on my Infernal Master to give him like a different look. And they were really strong in the game. They had like 18-inch flamer, so 18-inch Overwatch, and then you could give them things to there's a thing which they have. Well, if we're speaking in index terms, they had an enhancement which could then improve one of them to damage 2. And then
Oh
so
yeah.
you could do Overwatching damage to Flamer like all the time. It was hell on earth. I'm sure many people playing against it, but as
Didn't
a transition, it was pretty good though.
didn't they also have a way to make it devastating wounds as well in the index? Or am I crazy?
Yeah, so it was whether the psychic keyword. So the psychic keyword, which is if anyone plays Grey Knights, it's just a massive debuff. But in Thousand Suns, it was quite the buff because it basically let you either do 1 or 2, 3, which was like sustained, lethal, or devastating wounds at the time of index. And there was no reason not to choose devastating wounds. So any sorcerer whose weapons, their shooting weapons are all basically psychic, you are doing dev wounds like all the time. That's what made them so expensive. So I remember my Infernal Master straight up like killing dreadnoughts just in one shooting, and he has the ability to like turn one dice into a 6. So you'd always at some point get access to a devastating wound. It would be very like they were highly costed, obviously you can imagine. But again, like it was very fun because you felt like the power level of the sorcerers, particularly in this index era. We retained Cabal points from the previous sort of ninth-ish thing, but then our list of like spells we could do was shortened down to a much more viable list, which we still have in 10th. So before we get into like more 10th rule discussion, so basically, the army got easier to play. We got very deadly in shooting, and it was basically a bit of an easier time to sort of transition into this next edition of Warhammer.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I know looking at other armies and talking about the psychic thing briefly before we get into 10th, I think they definitely got off on the better end of things, and I think the main reason for
Oh
that
yeah.
isn't necessarily because they kept the abilities per se, but more so because they're the only army that kept the options. If that makes sense. Like if I look at like Eldar, for example, a Farseer still has like Guide or Doom, but you don't get to pick something else now. It's just you always have that one thing, and that unit is stuck with that rule. It's just baked into their data sheet. Whereas
We
before
yeah
it
we.
was, yeah.
So you go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say before it was like, oh, do I want to spend a spell to try and gain CP or debuff an enemy or buff an ally? And now it's you take the one on the Skyrunner if you want the offensive buff, and you take the other one if you want the defensive buff.
Oh yeah. Also, not having to do like psychic tests each time, so we lost the risk in doing
Mm.
spells. Well, the Cabal rituals, as they renamed it. So we basically had no downside, and we got all the buffs, which made it like we lost a little bit of flavor. I can agree with that for people, but as a again like someone who's trying to still learn Warhammer at this time, it was a lot more. It's not the still even at this point not the easiest army to understand all the synergy, but it was a much easier time to get to grips with the actual game of Warhammer because it's I'm sure as you know like sometimes the barrier for entry can be quite high. You actually need someone a lot of times to guide you through playing Warhammer. You need to play it with your mates or work it out together, or if someone's an experienced player. So again, me like stumbling my way through it, it was a bit more easier to grasp with a bit more of like a shortened list and not like knowing like each time I cast a spell, I'm not going to invert myself anus first because the warp suddenly came a knocking or something.
Yeah, it's definitely a little. I guess it's a weird one because on the one hand, Thousand Sons are like master sorcerers kind of thing, but I guess on the other hand, they're also working for Zinj, so it kind of makes sense for them to blow themselves up to some degree.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see that going forward as they get their codex intent. But yeah, it was. I would say yeah, it was a good start, and I was enjoying a lot of the lists I was making at the time. They have a very it's a very not a huge roster for Thousand Suns. I'll straight up say for people who are listening, you're not going to get the craziest range, but I would actually argue it's a benefit because therefore you're not having to buy so many different types of models or like God forbid you play Space Marines and then they release, whatever like Gravis, Thunder Cock, whatever machine thing that comes out and and now they made that super good, so you have to have that in your list. Whereas Thousand Suns are listen, all your stuff is good. All your stuff is good. There's nothing like terrible. There are things better than other things, but everything you have and your base units are all going to be good, and you can specialize them into different playstyles. So we got lucky there essentially.
Yeah, I guess if we were to shift into 10th edition, I'd say maybe with the start of 10th that kind of changed a bit. But that's from what I've heard from people I know that have played the army, but largely because of the Cabal points thing in 10th. Because like it felt like, especially looking at like competitive army lists in start of 10th for Thousand Suns, it was very much how many sorcerers or how many Cabal points can I fit in a list, which sort of ended up
Oh, we were
yeah.
we were Cabal point maxing. So
Yeah,
if I
which sort of
remember,
sorry, you go.
okay, so no, you go, man, you go.
As I say, which sort of, I guess, shunted the vehicle stuff out of the lists because if it's a vehicle, it doesn't get Cabal points.
Yeah, it did. To be fair, I'd almost argue as well. Like, if you also look at it from a lore side of it, the Thousand Suns are not known for their vehicles that much, so
True.
it was more thematic in some sense. And again, it's that thing of like again, like Magnus was. So if it were doing Cabal points, if I remember the top of my head, I think Magnus was 5 Cabal points, Ahriman 3, and then various sorcerers were either 2 or 1, and then a rubric aspiring sorcerer who's like their little sergeant guy, who's the only real person in that group. He also got like 1. So we were trying to maximize that pool, but it did mean that you again you it did shift you towards being like sorcerer heavy, but that is also it's like someone saying like, oh my god, there's too much butter in my lobster, there's too many tanks in my guard army, there's
Yeah.
too many terminators in my space marine army, like how I suffer. So I don't know if I minded that much. I mean, we were to their intent, we won, it took a while to get our codex, so I think a lot of people did eventually just settle into the fact like, this is kind of the meta of what we can do in our lists, and it's not shifted for a hot minute. That was the only
Yeah.
downside I can really think of.
I think that was the big complaint I saw online about it is that this is good. We like sorcerers. This is the main reason we play the army. But after a certain amount of time, it feels bad that you can't play, like, say, like a vehicle detachment or something because it doesn't work with the army rule.
Yeah, well, luckily it does change going
Yes.
forward at some point though, which if we wanted to get into the codex stuff. But as in like, yeah, it was a speaking from an experience, I like the lore of the army. It's very enjoyable, stuff like that. It's very weird. They have lots of strange things in their roster, and then the play style was, its shooting was horrendously bad for other people's mental health, and it was very fun. Just again, it's Warhammer. We're here for some kind of power fantasy, aren't we? And even though like it was kind of a bit glass cannon in some sense because we lost a few of the other rules that helped our survivability going into 10th. Those famous one, All is Dust, which people go on about and they remember, which obviously we will talk again in the Codexy section. But yeah, it was quite a lot of fun. That's the whole point about Warhammer. You should always choose something that you know is going to be fun. And I think people have fun in different ways, which is, do I want to throw a million guardsmen into the meat grinder? Do I want to have demon engines? Do I want to basically play Catan and let everybody else not have fun? But I think it was it's a play style. I think a lot of people, if they ever had a go with it, they would actually really enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially if you want to run 100 Zangors, go do that.
Yeah, they're very expensive. They're expensive for a chaff unit, but
Especially if you buy the upgrade sprue for 40k. They don't come with the chainsaws, do they?
no, but I had again when I bought the combat patrol, they came with it, so I already
Ah,
had it. So
that's handy.
I've I mean my like if you want to mid max your Zangors, which is a sentence no one has said ever, you could technically get chainsaws and bolt guns, but I mean, they are designed to die. That's the thing. They are chaff. They are designed to hold things and die like the good goats they are. So, you know,
In
shout out to
fairness,
goatmen.
I think their non-chainsaws is actually the better profile.
In my experience, it doesn't make any difference, to be honest.
I
They
suppose.
they they couldn't really do damage to a toothpick, so you know, it's not an army designed to get your best out of your Zangors. When there are people who say like, "Oh, Zangor detachment," I'm like, "What are you on about? That's not going to be. It'll be funny, and then not fun the entire time."
Yeah, it's definitely one of those attachments, a bit like the Tau one with the crew, where you're like, I'm going to maximize the number of men I throw at you.
That's at least there's more than one type of crew though. Like there's only a few of the Zangors.
At least there
There's
actually. There's
There's Zangors, regular guys who are not going into their rules yet, but they just essentially are like the standard goat men. They can either have Zangor blades or they can have bolt gun and chainsword. Not very
mm,
good, I'll be honest. Then we have Zangor Enlightened and the other version, which is they're basically on discs of Zinch, so they can fly around. They do. Often people have used them for doing objective things because they move 10, I believe, or they might have moved quicker in other editions. Also, they can have like bows, which have lethal and precision and other things. Not going sorry too many rules. And then there's the shaman who can basically be a leader Zinch goat on leading the Izangor Enlightened, and he can cast spells and do stuff.
oh yeah. Okay, so I suppose should we dive into I guess the start of 10th, because I feel like Thousand Suns have changed
Yeah,
a few sort of big times, and then they've been left for periods. I guess is what I've seen for them this edition. But
yeah. So going into is this for the codexy stuff? Because we had a big gap
I,
between like getting love until the codex.
I guess if we go like chronological, we'd probably start with the index, which very much was the sorcery point stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like we as a thing, like I believe it was seventh edition. They got the range refresh, and
Mm,
so there hasn't. I'll be honest with you, brothers and sisters. There's not been much since then.
no.
But some of the stuff is slightly reminiscent of like with the way that you like glue up rubric marines is quite an interesting way. Like they have their arm. Like Space Marines, they have their hands attached to the weapons, whereas with Rubric Marines, they have their hands slot onto the weapon. So you don't have
Ooh,
like it's yeah, the actual sculpt, the hands are not like
yeah,
only
that
one of the
is
arms is built into it.
yeah, that's
It's
like
quite
old
quite
school.
a version. Yeah, so like some of it is it doesn't I mean it keeps up with if it came out tomorrow and I don't think anyone would bat an eye. Like they look great. The standard Rubric Marines do look great. Shout out to my trim my fellow people in the trim squad for I'll be honest. The downside of Thousand Suns is the painting. It really can be the painting, but you don't have to paint them exactly the same way. There are plenty of people who paint them as like ghosts. So like they do paint them a bit green, and then you dry brush it like a off-white green,
mm.
and then it ends up looking like a ghost, and it's perfectly viable. So
I've
there are ways around it. Sorry,
I've also seen a few people do the sort of statue thing where you sort of do like the grey color and you dry brush it to get that sort of grainy sort of highlighting.
I
Um,
do love that one.
I guess so. I'm torn on these. I actually talked about these in a previous video, like not related to this. Is that I love the aesthetic of like especially the battle line, and I think they look great until you put them next to a Primaris Marine.
Maybe, but that could be said of any kind of chaos thing that's not Primaris sized. But
I suppose that's true.
things
Yeah.
I have full on like my rubric legions on the board, and when they are fully painted, they do look great. Like it really, as an army, when you can, I think a lot of people when they, a bit of a flex here, when you finish your pile of shame on
Oh
a certain
wow,
army,
that's a
yeah,
flex.
I know. When you finish your pile of shame and it's all like assembled and painted, I don't think I've ever thought like, oh, they don't look great next to Primaris Marines. They like like maybe an individual model is not as nice as like
Hmm.
or like as posed as some kind of intercessor, but as a whole group, great. And then you have to remember, like in the rubric squads, they have variety because most of them are like either flamer, bolt gun, but then they have the guy who's got the chain, the sword cannon, the
Yeah.
Gatling gun. There's the sorcerer, so there's variety within the squad already. because you have to remember, like it's not on purpose because the rest of the rubrics are not people because in lore they were basically turned into dust marines. So yeah, like the whole point is like the other guys, even their battle line units, they look like robots, like things to be commanded by their aspiring sorcerers, who are the only guys who have flesh and blood in that whole group. And like they have their little icons on their back, which are on the mostly on the Soul Reaper cannon these days, which is like a cool like flaming like symbol of like the Thousand Suns and Zinch, and so like there's a flame effect basically on each group. The flamers as a group as well, like as like so you either assemble them as like flamers or bolt guns.
Mm.
Most of the time you'll do them as flamers because flamers are good,
Yeah,
uh,
famous.
and they have some special rules with like re-rolling wounds and hits and other synergies. So or mostly wounds. So it's very good with these guys. And yeah, I mean, and also to be fair, like their sorcerer kit, their like trifecta sorcerer kit is considered one of the best kits in the current range of Warhammer because there's so
Yeah.
much customizability. That's the word.
Yeah,
So much customizability,
it's like a really good kit for bits as well, isn't it? You get tons of spares, which is lovely.
which can go onto your other rubric units. Like all the spares can go somewhere else if you want them to look a bit different as well. You get
Yeah.
so many different things you can do with that.
I guess the high issue thing for me was like I think I notice it less with Thousand Suns than I do with other armies because everything's fairly uniform in its size. If they release like a new upscaled like Terminator or Battle Line and the other stuff looks short next to it, I feel like it would be much more of a problem. And I think people notice that a lot of like Grey Knights, where you look at like the Strike Marines and then you put
Oof.
them next to their character and you're like, oh.
I also, funny enough, do play Grey Knights, and yeah, but also to that, we take advantage of a lovely, sexy thing called a headdress. So the Thousand Suns
Yes.
helmets are actually quite tall. So
Yeah. I think that
they don't
helps you
look
get
as
away with them
short.
looking a little bit more squat because of that as well. I'm currently looking at a picture of the battle line next to the Terminators, and I actually didn't realize they're the same height. That's partly because of the big hats.
Oh yeah, like the also the Terminators as well. So they are Scarab Occult Terminators. These guys are in I think it's called Taros Terminator pattern. So it's one of the older patterns from like Horus
Mm.
Heresy stuff. Like it's not designed to be like obviously a Primaris Terminator is enormous, and but these guys like again as a group, even their posability could be nicer. It could be nice, I'll be honest. But again, once you've got them all assembled up and your sorcerer sergeant who's got his specialized cape and he has his like special like staff which has different options as well. Like as a group, and obviously I love the fact that they all carry around was it chain scimitars or something as well.
Oh,
Like it's one of those things where like as a arm, like an army's fully done on the tabletop, Thousand Suns has one the more impressive like finished looks, if you know what I mean.
oh yeah,
As like a
especially
whole group.
especially if you do all that trim.
Yeah, it takes a while, I'll be honest, if you want to do it that way. But I mean, I've seen people paint them a lot. Like you just paint the gold first, and then you fill in the parts that are not trim. That's the
Mm.
actual fastest way to do it. Because painting the trim method is that's a few evenings. That's a few
A
evenings
few.
you will lose.
I know some people have been really into the the metallic pens recently. I know that's been a big thing as of
Hmm.
late. Um,
I haven't given that a go. Because I play Thousand Suns and Grey Knights, and the Thousand Suns army I have is the only one that's like fully painted to like what the Codex kind of style like colors are.
mm.
And it took me a while to do it. I won't lie, but it's a thing where the only metallics on it are kind. I don't know if it was. You need to find a brush to do it the way I did it. But yeah, I think I've seen people who do it where like there's new color ranges where you just have metallic blue as well as metallic gold, and that
Mm.
looks so good as a whole unit. I'm really jealous of people who have done that already. I made a mistake, but it's fine. I've already finished painting them. I'm not going to paint a Thousand Suns army again. There's better things to do in life than to repaint an entire army.
I have also seen a lot of people paint Thousand Suns with the like metallic red, like the heresy scheme.
Mm.
Is another very popular one I see occasionally. I had
Yeah, I
something
had
in mind
a
like 10 minutes
yeah,
ago, and it's completely gone now. I'm sure it'll come back to me, but
lost it. Zinch has stolen it away, brother.
each giveth and each taketh.
Yes, definitely. You know, Zinch is a cruel master. Apparently, he's that's the thing. He's the only if you, people like this aspect of like, you know, if you're playing like Death Guard or World Eater or stuff like their main lore thing, like their god is like very like, highly involved, whereas the Thousand Sons are almost like they don't want to be any more involved with Zinch. It's a curse. So there's a
Mm.
kind of fun thing of like there's a melancholy about the Thousand Sons. They are like an army that's always whistling away and getting weaker, but they also are ridiculously strong. So and they do again painting wise they do fall in they probably are the worst in terms of like trim if the paint for Warhammer armies, but again you can do it an easier way and it looks so good when it's finished. I promise you guys, if you ever get into it, you will do it, you will finish it and you'll be like, thank god I actually did that. It was so like, you know, so worth putting in that effort.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, that can be said. I suppose that can also be said for a lot of armies because ultimately it's very much a passion project. But especially so with that much trim, and also the robes, I guess, is another thing. But
It's not too bad. I find painting because the characters do feel so special.
mm,
The like I wanted to put more time into them, so like I painted mine. Like I had a few obviously doubles because if I play at 2K, you want a few characters, and I've painted them like they all look different. That's a good thing about it. Like you can like some of them might have like purple capes. Some of them I've gone for you know, either reds or classic cream white, you know,
mm,
for heresy stuff. Again, it's also one of those ones where you can like, if you ever look at the Thousand Suns subreddit, people paint them in all different kinds of ways all the time, and it always looks good. That's one of the best parts about the army is like you can. No one like you know the Nurgle army is probably the most forgiving for a bad paint job, whereas the Thousand Suns one is like anybody can do a decent paint job with it because everything's so segmented and just it's almost like paint in the line sort of theory for it.
yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I remember what it was that came to mind is that the one random tidbit fact that I know about the Thousand Suns from like a kit perspective is that the battle line, the way it's made on the sprue, means that it's really hard for them to put it into a combat patrol. Because they can't split it into fives, unlike stuff like the more recent kits. Like they sort of made it as this weird kit where like
Oh yeah,
all the torsos and legs are on one sprue, and then all the guns and stuff are on the other, so they can't split it in half.
doesn't matter. We still keep winning. They're not going to break us apart into crappy 5-man squads. You're getting it the full Monty, the full 10.
Oh yeah, that is one
Um,
upside, especially for Space Marines. So they like making Space Marines as 5-man. But the downside to that is it means every box you ever have has Sangors in it.
yeah, but it's fine. You like, at some point I have used all 20 Zangors, so it was worth it in the end. It was in the end we finally got Zangors on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's mostly my thoughts on like models and stuff. Is there anything you want to cover, like in terms of like modeling or like kit bashing or anything like that? The Thousand Suns specifically, or
Yes, last two people who want to play like Warhammer, it's good to have like a centerpiece one, and we almost have two centerpieces at the moment, which is the slightly less bigger deal, which is the Mutileth Vortex Beast, which is obviously a kind of a port over from Age of Sigmar,
mm,
but that as a model looks so good, and it's also one of the most common proxied models in the army because in fact, I've done it myself. I don't have a Mutileth Vortex Beast. I have the Necrosphinx from the Tomb Kings like range, and I put Thousand Suns like riding in the back of it, and it looks so good. And I say like it's still viable. Like it's also like, as a model, it's kind of creepy and weird, and it's like it does look so good for like in general. Like when you have a Warhammer army, like there's tanks and then there's soldiers, and then there's just this like Lovecraftian horror sitting in the middle of your army. And fun fact, I played three in one army for some people. Some people I don't know if you do more than that, but I've done a 3 triple Mutileth Vortex Beast who is pretty like he's not gonna kill everything, but he can endure a lot. That guy has been through things. And
they
then
are hard to kill sometimes. Other times they're not, but
no, like they can go like if you're lethal hitting with like a infantry unit or like with shooting, it can go down pretty quick. But in terms of like against tanks and vehicles, that 5 up invuln, 5 up feel no pain, like toughness 10 can be quite like annoying to shift. Like it's not. It wastes a round of someone else's like better weapons. That's the good thing. And just being near it like buffs sorcerers to do their channeling or their other stuff. So yeah, not bad. It's not the best. It's not the the most cost efficient best thing ever at that point cost for any army. In the whole ranges of things. But again, it's also a sick looking model. And then of
Yeah.
course is the best looking boy Magnus the Red. Oh, he's in lore. I have so much beef with this guy. He is such an asshole. Magnus could stub his toes every day if I got my way.
You can step on
I do
Legos.
not let go. Yeah, step on Legos. Just immediately call centers all day. Call him.
Oh,
But as a model, he is like it's one big guy on the battlefield who is towering. The model looks fantastic. It's not too challenging to paint as well. Like it's more intimidating than it is like challenging to do, and it looks so unique. And it also he hits hard on the battlefield. He's pretty deadly. And again, like that's a huge points cost. That if you wanted to play 2K, there you go. It's nearly 500 points for one model. You manage to almost you can get to 2K so easy if you have a Magnus. So and he's powerful and he synergizes so well with like different attachments in 10th. So or even in the index, he was pretty horrific. So again, we eat good on Magnus. Again, I'm a lore channel, so I mostly know him from a lore perspective side. Although I do play him on tabletop occasionally. I have a little gripe with him lore wise, but as a model and playing him in the game, very very fun. Very intimidating for people as well. I think he's not actually that hard to kill necessarily, but he's can dish it out, and people are scared of him. And again, saving you money, guys. Putting money, keep that money in your pocket, guys. It's a crazy year.
I know that in the index he was very, very strong. I know now he's more of a some lists take and some don't, which is probably a healthier place for him all that's that big to be. Um, Again, there was something about the previous thing you were saying, and we moved on to Madness, and now it's gone again.
Oh, the Mutileth Vortex piece, was
Yes.
it?
Every time I look at that mini, I'm shocked that it's not in the Chaos Demons range. Because that to me is just a demon, right?
It should be, but let us have something. That sounds like a enormous range. So
It could be in both.
demons don't have. Yeah, yeah. Also, like the Slaughter Brute, the other way you can
Yeah.
make that get
Like,
cushion
like,
than
it,
the corn ones.
like if the Forge Fiend and Mauler Fiend can be in 5 codexes, surely that can be in 2.
Yeah, but I mean, it's you can only buy it online, I think. So that's why a lot of people proxy it.
Yeah.
So I want less people buying it other than Thousand Suns players. Let us have this, please.
It is a cool mini.
Is a good boy as well.
Yes, indeed.
He has like the strength 18, strength 16, or strength 18 like one beam weapon, which is like unheard of in the game. So that guy is fun.
Oh, it's strength
I
18,
think
D6 plus 6. Yeah, it's a railgun.
it does devastating wound as well. So if you can devastating wound that on a 6, that thing is munching through things.
It will definitely will. I do have a bit of a spiteful relationship to guns that have one shot and hit on 3s, though. I do not trust them.
Yeah, I don't really. But then, as we get into the codex stuff, or even the rituals, you will have access to things that let you reroll hits and other
That
parts.
is
So
true.
you can be saved. You can be saved in some sense.
You underestimate my ability to roll a 1 into a 1.
I have done that quite a lot. So do not worry.
I suppose, should we get into some rules? I mean, you talked about 9th, so I suppose we should talk about 10th. We mentioned the index. And then I guess, I know it got nerfed a few times in the index, and then they sort of shifted it again for the codex.
Yeah. So for our beloved Thousand Suns, we had a generic army. Well, so not generic, sorry, but general army rule, which is we get access to these sort of rituals. So it's not in front of me, but if I remember off the top of my head, because I have played Thousand Suns a decent amount, they are escalating in different intensity / point values to achieve them. So the way you do it in the game is that you roll 2d6, and if your number is bigger than the number than they asked for, it goes off. And if it's like it has 2 number values, so if like there's a 1 that it goes off, and there's a higher value number, which means it goes off even harder. And if you get that big number, the spell that you have access to is even spicier. So we have one which is re-rolling hit rolls of 1 and then re-roll the hit roll. It's like the bigger number. Then you get Temporal Surge, is the one which is you can move d6 or just move 6. Then you get Doom Bolt, which used to be really horrific in the index. Because I think on the highest value, that one used to be d6 +3 mortal wounds if
Ugh.
you could get that. It's basically a free grenade, but now it's a
That's
maximum of
that's a lot better
yeah,
than
yeah.
grenade.
Yeah, but now it's toned down in the codex, so it was toned down to D3 or D3 +3 for the higher number,
Mm.
and then you get the last one, which is Twist of Fate, and that one is everybody in the army on that target can get +1 AP, or if you get, I think it's an 11 on 2d6, you can get +/- 2 AP. And if you're thinking like that's like only a few, but this is where it synergizes with the army because you have, I think, the lower ones. So like it's like a 5 on the first one to get reroll hit rolls of 1, and
Yeah.
then it's like a 10 to get the bigger number. And if you're thinking, what happened? This is where like the risk factor came in again. So you can roll peril, or well, basically you can roll a third d6, and you could basically try and achieve the higher number. But if you have any double or triple numbers in those rolls, you will take D3 mortal wounds on your unit or your character, whoever's casting the ritual. So this is where like that thing of it's a high risk, high reward. You don't have to always go for the higher one, but sometimes it can be worth it. And you know, especially on the higher ones, like if you're fighting, there's a heavy guard army with lots of tanks who don't have invuln saves, you could give your bolters -4 AP if you went for the higher number. So like that's the thing, like you with Thousand Suns, they create ways for you to generate synergy in your army at all times. Like that's the thing. And they cast from all your sorcerers and your sergeants, or your aspiring sorcerers, all the way up to Infernal Masters and even Magnus. If you're near Muselith Vortex Beast, you get +1 to your ritual attempt. Like Magnus can cast 2. Ahriman gets +1 to his number attempt, so he can, instead of being a 10, he will activate on a 9. So this is where like you have tricks in your book. So in the example of like the first one, rerolling hits, if I have a couple of Muselith Vortex Beasts and I'm hitting on 3s of my beam weapon, no, I can get reroll hits against that target, and then obviously strength 18 on, I'm wounding on a 2 sometimes for things. So it's again like you can generate the synergy when you need to. Temporal surge happens because there's no psychic phase. This happens at the start of your shooting phase. You can move your unit again, but you can't charge them. You can move your unit again without being in the movement phase of the charge phase. It's a free move without Overwatch, which is so valuable. Or like say if someone deep striked in your back line and they're out of line of sight, you move that unit so you can see them and then shoot them. That's the thing. Like you can actually or move yourself onto objectives, move yourself. You're like, oh, I'm too close to someone, or I can't quite get in line of sight of someone. You have that option of basically going the further mile of doing that. Doom Bolt is like a nice cheeky bit of extra damage. It's not I mean, and also they did change or at the start of the edition, you could, well, when the codex came out, you could basically just keep attempting them. As like, if one person failed doing it, you could just try it with a sergeant, you could try it with another sorcerer. And they changed it to you can only attempt it once, which means like, that changed it so that you could therefore think about like, this guy's the only one who attempted it. He's got like he got like a 9. I really need that 10. I'll risk doing the peril. So then like the Zeech like punishment mechanic came back in again, making it exciting for high risk, high reward. And obviously the most important one, which is Twist of Fate, a possibility of getting AP1 or AP2 for everybody shooting the same target, by the way. Like it's just like everybody on that target. And that meant like you could, again, for some things you get AP -4 bolters if it goes off. So, but you're not going to guarantee to get that one all the time necessarily. But
No.
you are going to get the one that's like, at the moment, most likely, like all the time. So again, if it goes off, hey, if you're pretty close to it, it might be worth risking that. And it's a way of like you really do sort of. I think I don't know if it's that necessarily difficult to play. I think they have a reputation of making it seem harder to play than maybe they are. because in some sense, like, certain strategies make the most sense. I'm going to put rerolls against the target that's in the open. I'm going to move the group that I want them to get in line of sight. I'm going to put AP on the thing that needs more AP to kill it.
Mm.
So it's not too many rituals to think about. It's not too many that is, I'm not like going, oh, I really need this one. Like I'm missing out on other ones. These four are really good in any of the detachments. They are a massive bonus to the army, and it makes it exciting because sometimes if it does go off, it's even more of a reward because you're like, yes, it makes different possibilities of play once you have that in your like sort of back pocket. So yeah, that's a big sort of exciting part about playing the army. I say big exciting thing. We're playing a board game, but we're playing a tabletop game. But it's a thing where it's like there's certain things you need in your army which make it feel good to play, and I think rituals going off in Thousand Suns is definitely like a big one of them so far.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the thing to always remember is that on a 2d6, the average is 7, so you like can sort of predict roughly where you'll come out in terms of rolling these. I think you're definitely right in terms of the skill level. I think the way I would, I guess, describe this to some degree is like if you took like Oath of Moment from Marines and the skill level, the kind of skill that's involved in using that properly, and then going, what if you had second, third, and fourth?
Yeah,
It's not like,
it's not too much.
yeah, it's not like impossibly hard to do, but there is like a level of a very high level player will make better use of them in the same way that you would with something like Oath of Moment.
I think that's the thing with with playing Thousand Suns. There's also a thing of not as many people play Thousand Suns. So the people who are like, if you look at tournaments or if you play in tournaments, I'm pretty sure you'll find that the people who are playing them generally know what they're doing with the army. So in some ways, we get like overrepresented in was it like average win, like not tournament wins, but like average percentage wins per game or something. Like we're quite
Mm.
highly overrepresented because luckily not as many people play into Thousand Suns, or again, we're not it's in a good state, the army, at least. It always much of Temptation has always been in a good state. There's not really been a part where it's like, oh, there's no point playing the army now. But it's always been where they say we've been eating good. So, you know, I'm a happy camper.
I think from when this codex came out, I very much remember there being a lot of rules like queries about a lot of the things in the army rule, like especially like the whole psychic test sequencing. Like, do you roll the third dice at the same time, or do you wait and check? Everyone wasn't sure because I mean it still reads as if you could theoretically do it afterwards. I don't actually remember which way it was ruled in the end because it doesn't really clarify on Wikipedia. But I remember that
Oh,
being a big thing.
so you roll the 2d6. And then, depending on the number you get, you can choose to risk rolling the third one.
Mm.
So you like it's that thing of it lets you have player choice, which is the good part.
Yeah,
So yeah, you always have a option, like because when you roll the 2d6, if you get like a double or a triple, you don't take any wounds. Then it's when you
yeah.
roll the third one that you take that risk. So
Yeah, well, I
um,
think the rules debate when it first came out, if I recall correctly, was whether or not you had to like declare if you were rolling 2 or 3 before you do the roll, if that makes sense. Like people didn't know at the time whether or not you had to add the extra dice or something. It was something along those lines. I don't entirely remember, but
maybe, but I maybe one or two people didn't know, but as
I
in
don't,
it's that thing of if it was if it's the first week, I'm sure people had questions, but most
yeah.
people we got locked in pretty quick.
It,
Which I found I've grown in like a lot of time when it first happened, I wouldn't risk rolling the third one, but
mm,
also it's on the unit,
yeah.
so your sorcerer doesn't have to die.
Oh no, I
So,
lost one rubric.
yeah, you don't have to like if one normal rubric is losing them is fine because the damage dealers are the attached character, the sergeant, and the soul rubric cannon. Those are the damage dealers, and as a thing in their rubric rules, which I think it'll say the same even before index and codex. Same thing, which is they reroll wound rolls of 1, and then if it's on objectives you don't control, it's rerolling the wound roll. And then they have an icon, which on this, it's on the Solar Cannon guy, which gives you all weapons, ignores cover, but most of the time you're flamers anyway. So like you are it does a lot, rerolling a wound roll for flamers. is pretty good. You're doing damage, and not all of them are like the weapons are. The debuff, which is the psychic keyword, but depending on the attachment you're playing, it is a massive buff at those times as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other thing I remember, I don't remember if was the case or not. It's did the Doom Bolt originally ignore low knop, if I recall?
They had to add it in
Yeah.
because it counted like it's the rituals are not like you're not shooting someone technically, so you had to if I hit you with a doom bolt, like it's like I'm hitting you with a grenade. You're not, you've like there was certain things I had to add in, like oh technically it's a ritual, so I'm not shooting someone out of 24 inch, or outside 12. Sorry, I'm hitting you with a basically a long range grenade. So they did have to like add that in, but they added it in pretty quick, so it was fine. It's all right.
Interestingly, reading it now, there's like a weird fringe case where this still ignores like Kyria Draxus's lone op because it specifically says lone operative ability.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. It's that thing. I don't know if any. It's not. Warhammer is still not a perfect game, so
Oh yeah.
it's that thing of it. We're so at this point we're so far deep in the rule bloat of it, in what even worse in other editions that we're in the niche of niche. So I think for most people they understand like it plays that way, and it's not too crazy, but it allows you to that's the thing in Warhammer. If it unless it says no, you can do it. That's the big thing. Unless it says no, so
Yeah, it's very much one of those things where the nitty gritty is very much there just for the people that will take the worst possible like interpretation of it to like a tournament or something. But when you're playing at home with friends, you're like, I would just do it this way.
yeah, I think I'm on the opinion always of like unless it says you can't do something, let someone do it because it's about being creative in Warhammer. You learn things all the time of like if you do things with like consolidate is different. You could consolidate into another person and fight someone else. Like you learn other things in the game, which is important to the higher level strategy plays. So lucky with it, Valzon's being a shooting army, there's not as much like the combat shenanigans. We're not the best in combat, guys. If people didn't realize about wizards, but not
Shocker.
bad. But not shocking. But like our shooting is like in a particularly in 10th, which is quite shooting heavy, and then the amount of cover in 10th, and then having your battle line unit all have access to ignores cover has been like it's a massive thing. So yeah, like we straight up blasting, from put my subwoofers on my car. There's no way you're dodging this shot.
That sounds much more Emperor's Children to me.
Yeah, but that's what is the analogy I was thinking of. Like you can't dodge sound. So
Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, so should we go into some detachments, I suppose? Do you want to start anywhere in
yeah,
particular or
we should. I think because I want people to start. We'll start with the ones I know slash are worth playing as it currently is, which is I think a lot of armies have suffered from the fact like some of the detachments are basically pointless. Grey Knights, basically no. So
True.
they a lot of them are they're pointless, but Thousand Sons have quite a few good ones, and there are a few that people do play, which is quite lucky considering. I think that's the one the downside slightly of 10th is like the point values is kind of balanced off of their best attachment rather than
Yeah.
like all yeah. But that's okay. We're going into it. Which so we'll start with Grand Coven because this is the evolution of the Index one, and this is I would say the most played throughout the all of 10th and probably still just edges out as most played at the moment. Now, Grand Coven is it previously was the psychic keyword let you get access to it either made the attack sustained, lethal, or devastating wounding. You obviously have picked devastating wounding. There's no reason not to. And when we got our codex, it changed into you basically we turned into like a version of what was Gladius Task Force. So we either got extended range to our psychic for 1 round, devastating wounds to our psychic for 1 round, and then +1 to wound for psychic for 1 round. Which, in a version of Warhammer where there's such thing as a go turn, if people know what a go turn is, basically you position yourself ready to have a turn where you deal the most amount of damage you can to basically stop your opponent being able to recover the rest of the game, which is very good for a Thousand Suns army. the it's a slight. I guess it's not as powerful as what basically was devastating wounding every single turn ever since before
Yeah.
that, but it still comes out really good because so when I was like I haven't done Grand Covenant. I haven't played Grand Covenant in a little while because I was trying out some of the other ones, and like plus range to your psychic was very good to start the game because obviously you're very far away in terms of distance in your armies. Then when it's my go turn, I would switch on devastating wounds for all my psychic, which is pretty good. And then as the game gets further on, I give myself +1 to wound. So basically, I would turn one, I wouldn't always necessarily pop it, but by the time you get into turn five, most of the enemy army is there's not many of them left anyway. And when your armies are whittled down, you mostly have like your characters or a few units left. In the Thousand Suns, you have your sorcerers left, who are the most powerful units in your army. So you don't really need access to all those devastating wounding and plus what you're fine. You can generally, unless you've taken too much damage from someone else's go turn, you can pretty much safely keep the game going and like not like wrap it up, but you can usually win from there. And a lot of the enhancements in this attachment are still really good. Although some of them did get a bit worse, but only some of them are basically worth mentioning, which is I don't know if you can if you have do you have the enhancements before you because it might be funny if you try and pronounce one of them, which I can actually I'll send that to
Oh,
you as a
I have them on the screen at the moment. Which one? Which one is it?
it's can you pronounce that one? I put it for you to
Uh,
it's not too bad, but it's funny.
Eldritch Vortex of Itaf.
It's half. This is it used to be just it used to be like a vortex of doom, which is I think it was before that. So, I don't know why they went that crazy with it. But giving +1 strength and damage to psychic weapons. And typically the way people are running this now, so you used to often go to the Infernal Master, who's the guy
Mm.
who has 18-inch flamer weapon, horrific for Overwatch. So he was doing damage to a maximum of like 2d6 number of attacks. So you could be doing 12 attacks, hitting like his strength 7 because it's got a +1 strength. So on Space Marines, you're wounding on threes, and then you could be deving with 2 damage devs. Horrific. But at the moment, people are running it on their Demon Princes because it gives your Demon Prince, I think strength 9, or no, it might be strength 9, but it gives it damage 4. You can
Ooh,
dab. You can dev. It has devastating wounds built into your demon princes
that's
anyway.
funny. Is that
Yeah, so you can.
is
Yeah,
that
so go.
the Wing Demon Prince or the Demon Prince on foot?
I think the difference is like you have like maybe strength a lower strength one on the foot one, but the wind one is the one that's worth. Like that's the guy. Like that's my boy. That one. So he's the guy who. But both of them have access to 3 damage on their like strike profile essentially. But the basically giving it the enhancement lets you get damage for weapons, which if anyone knows, in fact, if you can devastating wound a damage for a weapon, that's pretty horrible. Again, it has fly. He has like extra. He has an extra shooting ability called Dark Blessings, which he also has. The Aether Strider or something like that. It's
Yeah, Safe
where
the Stride.
he can land on the battlefield like 6 inches away from enemies and just shoot, but no charge. He also rerolls hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1 against character units. So this guy's a character killer who can dev wounding on 4. Like he can be pretty nuts. That guy. Some of the other ones like Unprolific Crystal, which lets you just zip around. It lets you basically do a deep strike on the tabletop. So you can do a deep strike turn 1 because if you start, it just basically happens in your command phase. So you zip up and then you come back down. So incredibly good for an army that's not super fast. That one's so good
Mm.
for your movement. You have Incadnium, which lets you basically, if you've already done Doom Bolt, you can do a second Doom Bolt, and then Lord of Forbidden Law is almost not worth talking about. It's like plus range.
See,
Ignore it.
when you mentioned the pronunciation, I actually thought you were going to point out Incandium. I thought that was going to be the hard to pronounce one.
Yeah. Oh, I've said it enough. So I've shouted it enough at other grown men. But yeah, this detachment it lost like is really difficult because our index rules was the probably the best index rules in the entire game. So even though this is slightly like we lost a few things that were better in the index, it's still one of the better detachments I would say in 10th edition as it was.
Mm,
The ones that are worth mentioning, like there's some that let you get hazardous for psychic attacks against you, not worth doing.
that's very niche.
Destined by yeah, Destined by Fate is the one where it lets you 0 damage an attack against a psycho.
So
Amazing to
Magnus.
keep keeping Magnus alive. You can +1 to wound, so you can get access to +1 to wound. As in, like it lets you re-choose one of your psychic detachment rules, so you basically still get devastating wounds on a unit again. So you were never like, even though you're like, oh, it's only for 1 round. No, you have access to it again if you needed to. There's one that use sticky objectives, really good in an army that's very elite. And then the other one I think was that you could rechannel if you need. I haven't had to use one, but you could do it. Like if you failed your channeling, you could have another go.
There's add 9 to range of psychic weapons. Did you miss that one? That's 2
Might
CP
have.
though.
Oh no, this one is this one is this is plus range, but this is the one where it also lets you reroll the hit roll and the wound roll
Oh yeah, that's
in
quite
for
good.
a psychic one. Yeah, so it's 2 CP,
Yeah.
but I've often found it's worth saving up for someone like Magnus, who it's worth getting out everything out of his attack essentially. So you're probably going to use this like once in the game, but
Mm.
it's still pretty, rerolling hit rolls and a wound roll on a thing that can, you can still use that in your devastating wounds round. So, you know, horrendous. This one, this one is very much a good all rounder as a detachment, and it's again, if anyone wants to play Thousand Suns, they're probably going to keep a lot of these things going forward in terms of style, which is you get access to some heavy damage things and a few like nothing to keep your units like survivable, but things to help your army survive in the game in terms of points, which
Mm.
is the important part. Like by the time you finish a game with Thousand Suns, you may only have a few guys left, but they're all like the really powerful guys because it's Warhammer. Is very bloody at this point in 10th edition. Like armies often come out very wounded at the end of each game. Like that's how you should be playing it. You can't be too defensive. I don't know what your thoughts are on this one because I think for a lot of people who play other armies, it seems like why did they get all these good parts?
Um. No, I get it. I think you were very right at the start. My first thought reading it as you were describing it was, wow, this is your Gladius equivalent. Which is basically what you summarized it as. It was interesting to hear a breakdown of the detachment rule because from my interpretation of it on first read was my first read of it was very much it seems like a weird Gladius in the sense that Gladius is very utility focused, where all three of these are kind of damage focused, although the range is arguably more like a reach focus thing. So they kind of fill a similar role. Like it doesn't feel like one turn we're moving faster, another turn we're doing more damage kind of thing.
Yeah, because the army is not a mobility army.
Mm,
you're not up here downing like each turn, like zipping around the battlefield. You are letting your enemy come onto objectives. You then kill every single one of them, and then you take it. That's how the army kind of plays a lot of time. You are not there to take damage. You are there to inflict it, and there are all again, including with all the synergies of the army rule, which is this is all these things plus you get to have plus AP, plus re-rolling hits, plus extra moves so you can get in range, and then do like a re-rolling hit roll and a wound roll damage shot. Like a lot of these things are, again, this is the army that is like go turn. Like it is the go turn army basically. There's no other army that can have a harder go turn as this one, which obviously means like if you do badly on it, it can be hard to recover at times.
yeah.
But that's the I think the thing with the difficulty of the army is the experience of knowing when is the go turn. But there's other detachments to be fair to go into who don't necessarily suffer from this as much. So
Yeah, I
this particular detachment is designed for a go turn.
yeah, for sure. I guess it's interesting though, because like where you're saying it's like a go town army is interesting because it's not like slow, but it's not fast as a go town army. Like you have your double move thing, but that's one unit. So when you're go turning, everything kind of has to be in position except that one unit can move twice. Um,
Yeah,
there's
it's not
yeah.
perfect. That's the thing with comes with it's it's not someone like you wouldn't recommend this to be like for so I wouldn't say for someone if you know nothing about Warhammer, play this army. It's all like this is your second army, it's not that. It's more of a you'll learn so much about the game if you play this army because you understand like the kind of I guess the flow of a game, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, for sure. So, say for maybe like some minutia of the charge phase, because you probably don't. I mean, you will still charge with like the demon prints and some things that have like the terminators have melee weapons, but they're not like insane. Um,
Yeah, Magnus is. Oh no, well, yeah. To be fair, a lot of them, the rubrics, Magnus, and the Demon Prince are the ones who they can be quite annoyingly deadly in melee, whereas a lot of the other ones are just don't even bother, don't get in melee or anything
mm.
else. Do not just please run, please run.
I guess the last thing I'll point about this that I'm noticing compared to like other gladiators is every gladiator variant in every army always has a strat that's one CP target a thing, put it back in the thing. Like Gladius has it, AdMech has a detachment that does it, this has it. They did it with more Daka, with the one that puts the thing back in the war, which they realized was a massive mistake and undid that immediately.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make thematic sense with the actual army itself. In again, like the
Mm,
law reasons is there's not many Thousand Sons left in the universe. They're not ones who they have trickery, but they don't. They're not they're not playing like a strategic long war. They're here to win a battle, sort of thing. They go in and they go out. They get what they need and they don't hang around. So yeah, this it's a bit more it's difficult in that sense when so much of 10th edition was like having things go into reserves is so powerful, but also like your things like, again you kind of trade off in the fact like you usually have shot everything else off the board by the time that thing has to come down anyway. So we'll see. If you're lucky, you'll see the benefits in other parts of the game definitely.
for sure. So I don't know what order you've got these in. I'm currently scrolling through Wikipedia.
Well, because I'll be honest, a lot of the other ones are so not worth talking about, except Rubric Phalanx, which is the next one, which is like Rubric Phalanx and Grand Coven, the only ones that people really play in terms of like they actually get attention because the other ones don't have very good like army rule, like sorry,
Yeah.
detachment rules or like synergy. But Rubric Phalanx is the one I've had the most amount of fun recently with, which is where we get access to your old All is Dust rule again. So unmodified damage rolls of 1, you get +1 to your armor save. So a lot of this attachment is designed to basically endure. This one is designed to be the one where like you get your toughness out of your rubric units. It's obviously not. It's not an army. Sorry, it's not a detachment rule that goes off every single time. But again, it's like chipping fire. It's one of those things where you'd be surprised because most of your rubrics are 3 up, 5 up, or if you give them certain characters, they can have 4 up in advance, or they have a exalted sorcerer who can bring back a dead rubrics. So like it synergizes really well with particularly the Scarab Occult Terminators, and this is where people often bring bricks of about 20 of them in some lists. I have one where I don't have that many. Uh, I don't quite have that many Scarab Occult Terminators, but I have 15 in one list, borrowing some Terminators from other armies I no longer play. But yeah, this one keeps some units annoyingly alive for a lot of people playing against you. And of course, you'd still have access to your army rule of all those buffs as well. The enhancement here only have a few that are like there's two of them that are really really good, which is Risen Rubrique, which allows you to infiltrate unit, either 2 Rubric Marines or 1 10-man, also one like Scarab Occult unit. Basically, it's the only ones that have the rubric keyword. You're probably thinking, is that like crazy good? Like, because it's worth quite a few points in the game. It is because of the problems you suffer with movement. Like getting onto objectives is difficult for Thousand Suns sometimes. Whereas the ability to infiltrate your units already onto the objectives, like not all of them, but say you're like your closest no man's land or like near the center one, there's already the pressure for your enemy to like immediately come to you like on your terms. Or my favorite one I've seen, which is people pair it with Ahriman in the detachment. Ahriman lets you redeploy 3 units, and or you can put them into reserves after. Like Ahriman lets you, I think other armies have like characters who let you do that.
Yeah.
People put their Scarab Occult 10-man as a massive 9-inch like block away from the enemy to stop them doing any like infiltrating or any. Basically, it's a massive like roadblock or infiltrating block, and then Ahriman immediately scoops them up and then puts them into reserves in Deep Strike and lets you add it to your Deep Strike number. It's even higher. Like it doesn't add to your Deep Strike maximum, which I think is like 25% of your army. So with Ahriman like joining you on, like allowing you to do this, you can have basically 20. You have a huge block of Terminators all in Deep Strike again, like ready to come in where you need it. And the other one, like there's one which lets you reroll battle shock tests, and worth 5 points in the game, so people often have it just because, like, hey, why
Yeah,
not?
cheap.
Yeah, it's on there. It's often on their Demon Princes just in case. The Lord of the Rubricae is one that people often attach to their sorcerer lords for terminators, because even though the sorcerer terminator lord gives, like, in your shooting phase you can choose a unit and your unit gets +1 to hit in the shooting phase, this +1 to hit also goes into your melee, like your fight
Mm.
phase. So you're hitting on twos with basically everybody, which is quite annoying. And he also gives the whole unit lethal hits. So you're lethal hitting and hitting on twos. You are sending a huge wave of hits against anybody who you attack or you get attacked by. The Stave of Abominus is not worth talking about. Like nobody takes this one, which is gives your melee
Oh.
like sustained hits D3 because you can't put it on Demon Prince, unfortunately.
Oh, you can, oh,
Yeah, so melee on Thousand Suns is not worth it for them.
what's the best infantry profile you have for this? Is it like, I don't even know.
Uh, it
Like
would be
a
the normal sorcerer who he could have
mm,
access to lethal hitting on his like Kopesh, but again, it's really not worth it, to be honest.
oh,
Not worth it.
I guess the
Yeah,
sorcerer also has the once per battle effect to gain strength and attacks, but then you don't get it in the shooting
yeah,
phase if you do that. So like,
yeah. The sorcerer giving you like sustained D3, and then you have like a once per game. He gets +3 attacks, +3 strength, so strength 9. He can be horrendously annoying for some people. But the good thing about this detachment is even though it's very CP hungry, I'm sure you're seeing here that there's 2 of them at like 2 CP. It's all very like synergized to keep your guys alive. So getting assault on your units is really good because again, Sun shooting, even without devastating wounding, is still really good. The most important one is fall back, shoot and charge.
yeah,
Uh,
that sounds right.
that one. So when you have your the idea in Rubricae Phalanx is to have your Terminator blocks sit on objectives, and then they can, like, if it's damage 1, they get +1 to their armor save. They're 2 up, 4 up invuln.
Mm,
They like there's 10 of them, 3 wounds each. Even if someone throws a lot of, you can lose 3 of them if someone throws quite a lot at you because you've got a pretty good armor save, plus you've got pluses to your save. And then even if you get locked up in combat, you can fall back, let out your enormously disgusting shooting, and then charge in again. That's the whole point. Like it's an annoying brick that people cannot. Like I'm surprised at how much in game people can't shift them. It's very frustrating when I'm playing against people. There's also the 2 CP one of Infernal Fusillade, which it used to be in the index, which lets you get strength 5 on your bolters, and then it gives them the keyword, which it can pair with some things quite well. So if you have a rhino and you disembark from a rhino, the rhino lets you reroll hit rolls and wound rolls for the target you shoot for psychic keyword. So
okay.
it can be really good there, but it's very, I don't people don't often run that because despite being, it's 2 CP, so it's very, you really want to use it for the other stuff. There's Revenge of the Rubricae, which it lets you shoot your unit back as if it was a shooting phase if your psychic unit dies. And often when you have characters paired with your unit, you can basically let your sergeant, who is even in the Scarab Occult, even in the Rubricae like normal unit, you can let that sergeant die, and you still have a psychic unit in your group who lets you have access to the psychic keyword and gives you other like bonuses. So it's quite. I haven't had to use it that much, but it is quite it can be quite annoying for someone who's like, towards the end of the game, you basically can shoot again. The amount of times you're lethal hitting on most things, or you've got flamers, so it can be quite annoying.
Yeah, I have run into scenarios playing against this where there's been scenarios where they've gotten to Overwatch and then you shoot them and then they shoot you again, and you're like, why are you allowed to do this?
Yeah, the next one, which is Implacable Guardians, which is -1 damage, and this is in the shooting phase. It's not gonna be perfect every time because it has to be unmodified damage rolls of 1 to get all his dust. So it's not gonna be
Oh.
perfect. But again, -1 damage on a so instead of having someone had a 3 damage weapon,
Mm.
shooting phase, goes down to a 2, that kills a lot less a lot less Scarab Cult Terminators each turn. That's like killing like half the amount. And then the last one, which is Unwavering Phalanx, which is -1 to wound in the fight phase against your unit. So this it's not like the perfect thing, isn't there there's no feel no pain. So this army and detachment is quite vulnerable to mortal wounds. But my god, like the amount of where it's like people the amount people can throw at you and you're still alive is very frustrating. And then you always can just keep falling back, shooting and charging. So you kind of you it is very much a design to you hold position and you just keep throwing waves of people until they run out of units to throw at you. So it doesn't have as much good movement from there's don't have the enhancement from Grand Coven which lets you teleport. That one's really valuable. There's nothing like that in this one, unfortunately. But again, this one is very good in terms of point scoring in the game. You are often taking objectives from people. You are often, able to basically. It's one to designed to max score in the game, and it's not as I wouldn't know if I've had more fun than the other one, but I would say quite a bit of I'd say quite a bit of fun. To be fair, yeah. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or feelings on this one? Because it's hard to translate talking about it in game to how much it actually pays off in
So
terms of the damage reduction.
I have played against this one a bit, and unfortunately for me, a lot of the armies that I play are very chip damage focused and have a lot of 1 damage.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely a very interesting skew. I have very interesting opinions on this, in part because that first enhancement, the Risen Rubrique one, is one of the only reasons Imperial Agents got any changes this edition.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's I wanted to try this one out, but because I've been playing Grand Coven for quite a lot. Well, unfortunately, with the Thousands, we had a problem where everyone got their lovely what was it Grotmus detachment, and our one was just the worst, and it made no sense. It had things like unless you re-roll wound rolls for your rubrics, they already do that. What do you mean?
mm.
I would say in terms of the actual army, these two are the only ones that are even worth dabbling. I can go over the other ones a little bit because I'm not as familiar with them because I don't know anybody who really does it.
So I guess,
because
yeah, my suggestion was going to be if we go over the other ones, it would be good to talk about them, maybe talk about what they could do better next edition for them with those kind of themes, as opposed to going through every strat and every rule, and also talk about okay, what's done well here and what's not so done well here.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So the other one was it. I think the next one would be Warp Meld Pact.
That's
I
the
don't.
is that the Zangor one?
It might be. Let me just double check on my
it's
side of it because
it's
I haven't had to look at this one in ages.
it's Tzeentch mutant infantry mounted, or yeah, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, so this one, yeah, it lets you add one to the wound rolls for these specific units, like these mutant ones, isn't it? Or you can take wound, you take D3 mortal wound and you take -1 to wound for the damage incoming. It just seems like a lot of you're taking damage to take less damage, which I
Didn't
mean,
I'm trying to recall.
yeah.
There was something about this that got nerfed at one point, but I don't remember why. It might have just been a rules clarification.
I think maybe it might have been some of the enhancements on it.
I think it was
Which is
something.
surprising.
No, I think it was something to do with the detachment rule. It was like the thing where you deal mortals to yourself. Like it was like the ordering of when it happened or something. Made so like, I think it was the mounted Zangors really annoying to deal with for some reason. I don't remember what it was though.
Maybe I again like because it's one of the things about these like other detachments are so not looked at. It's that thing I can almost barely remember if anyone really like annoying like so kind of looking at some of the better sides of it. Like some of their enhancements are good, which like you can give like a 4-up feel no pain and you get more wounds, which is called flowing flesh. You can put it on the Zangor shamans, but unfortunately the downside like the Zangor shaman is like could be destroyed with like a strong gust of wind. So
I
it
found it.
wasn't.
I found what
Yeah.
the change was. So the problem was is when they released this is what you could do if I can find it is when you get shot, you made a sacrifice, and you would kill the one that was visible, thus rendering the attack no longer go through. They had to reallocate it to somewhere else. But now it's at the end of the phase. You take the mortals.
God, I mean, it's, what are people thinking? I think the other one was just like Warp Mail Dagger, which if you make a ritual roll, you can see the result, then have this unit take D3 mortals and get that much of a bonus to the test.
That's quite funny.
Which I don't know if you need to be that desperate for the rituals, to be honest. I don't know about that one. The Diamond of Distortion as well as one of them, which is minus one to be hit.
I guess for that first one
Yeah,
quickly, how many wounds does a Zangor Shaman have to actually do that
four.
with? Oh, okay. So
He's got
at least you can't kill yourself the first time.
yeah, but
Yeah, it's still not great.
it's not. It's like his profile's like he's not a high damage unit, so like it's literally just there to be used in a ritual that
Yeah,
I don't like. Again, it's not that worth it. Diamond Distortion gives minus one to be hit, which
sure.
again, if for the people who are running their 20 Zangor blocks, maybe, but it's Zangors are not tanky enough to make that worth it. Bray Lord, which it goes on sorcerers or infernal masters, and gives them the Scout 6 ability as well. And then it gives them it lets them join, I think, and then lets them have like access to lethal hits from sorcerers or maybe it's sustained. Yeah, sustained hits from the Infernal Master, which
Yeah,
again could be good, but Zangor's the thing with detachments, Zangors are 70 points, like 10. So they're costed in a way in which they are not worth having it. Like it's a 140 point unit of 20 Zangors, and it won't be able to do that much. So
hold on. They're 160 actually.
even more, yeah. So it's like, oh no, in
That's
a group of
expensive.
20, sorry, yeah. Like I don't know, like some of these are just not worth it. It's just really not too like I don't know that many people who have been. I mean, I find it fun thematically, but
Mm,
yeah, I mean, some of these ones like again, like when you the rules here, which is like gift of change. When a character dies, you can spend a CP in time to a chaos spawn. Like that's fun,
that's quite funny.
but our is I very much enjoyed the thought of that. If only our chaos spawn were a little bit like if they were as good as like the corn ones, like they would be quite enjoyable. You can give 4-up invons to Zangors. You can mutant, which are like I don't know if all Zangors are mutants, but like definitely the more mutilated vortex beasts are. You can pile in and consolidate 6 inches, which is somewhat useful, but unfortunately, again, like the mutilated is more of a shooting thing, and it's more of a damage soak rather than you really really need him in combat. Blessed Transmutation, so you can pick Psychers and nearby Zangor units, and you can regain D3 plus 1 models, potentially, not wounds, like models.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, which is a fun idea, but for how brittle Zangor units are, it's not enough. Like you're immediately gonna get wiped. Like, or you probably get most of the time with Zangors, you get wiped in one shooting anyway. So I don't know how much it comes up.
I
And
guess
then apparently, yeah,
maybe on
go.
the squad that's got minus one to hit. I guess.
It's too many points investment in for a
Yeah,
unit that's not going to get you that back for you.
I feel like that.
There's
I feel like that strat, if they wanted it to be good, needed to be like the one like the Eldar Guardian detachment where it's like pick the unit up and then fully heal it. It needed to be like that kind of silly.
I think yeah, that would have been more fun. There's one which is advance shoot at or charge for mutant. But again, the downside is like it's the units that have that mutant keyword. It's just not enough value in this. And then Twisted Mirage, which is lets your mutant come in from reserves, effectively using the Deep Strike rule. So, I mean,
It's 6 inch, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
again, like the overall, I say the downside for this particular detachment is that thematically it's fun, but it just relies too much on the particular units in the game that are kind of the worst in the roster, if you know what I mean. It doesn't make them tanky enough or special enough to, or have enough damage output to necessarily consider this viable, which is a bit of a shame. I don't know if in terms of ways to improve it, it's unfortunately that I don't know if there's in terms of like rules about making it like crazy, but it would have to be like a points cost thing of like having oops Zangor Horde would be funny,
Mm.
but at that point you're just like again like that's the thing with downside of 10 is like everything is point costed to the fact of like it's for all the detachments, so that's the issue I think we mainly run into here, which
I guess the other approach.
is it.
I guess the other approach could have been like the like plague bearer one. It's like that kind of style of you get a ton of extra units like the Zangles. Like, well, I don't know.
I think if it had something about like infiltrating as well would have been quite. There needs to be a way of like
Hmm.
it's a play style where you are designed to sort of like because again like, it suffers the movement problem still. I think that would be the only way to sort of bring it back into some kind of like help, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a very odd one because like when you look at the rules, it has functionally in the detachment -1 to wound and +1 to wound, and I feel like if you want to add too much else, it becomes a bit scary, I suppose. But
Or it's a bit of a. It's almost like a bit of a joke. Like how is Angor's that powerful? It's like what's going on? It's not,
yeah,
yeah. The one that I've had some people dabbled in when the um, Codex came out was the what's the vehicle one called? It's called Warpforged Cabal because this is where we got
yes,
the new unit. We got the Secatile robots, which I'll be honest, a lot of the people on launch weren't super happy because they were too small and a bit thin. I think we
mm.
were expecting a bit more of like a proper, automaton guardian, and we got like thin Gary over here, if you know what I mean. So this one is in like if you are within 6 inches of friendly psycho models, you can re-roll one hit, one wound, and a damage roll, which is, I imagine, from many other armies, quite interesting and quite a cool idea. I think other people do have that for certain. I think maybe it was the Space Marine like Iron Handsy one might be something similar. It's been a while since I played Space Marines,
Yeah, it's
but
the what's it called? I know which one you mean, but yeah, um,
yeah, it's interesting, but it's also a lot of the cool parts about Thousand Suns. Even though like it's good to have a detachment that focuses on vehicles, the issue is that the vehicles are not the star. Then maybe in my opinion they shouldn't be because all we again suffer from the problem like our range is not large enough where we don't have any like super unique like Zinchian style vehicles like really at all. So like people can do well with this one I think, but it's not gonna win you quite as many games as the other two detachments we spoke towards the beginning. There's some interesting enhancements though. I think the one I remember that is here was like perplexing cloak, which lets you have lone op if they're within 3 inches of a vehicle, and then when basically, if I remember, it basically turns into like a tech marine. I think because you get +1 to hit. Yeah, it turns like a sorcerer into a tech marine, which I do love the concept of. Which
mm.
I think. Oh no, sorry, that's the different one. Sorry, biomechanical mutation lets you repair D3 wounds each time, which yeah, could be. I guess the problem with the normal tech marine, maybe that's just not enough. But this one gives, so the other one, protecting cloak gives you +1 to hit. Yeah, so in some way he's like almost like a slightly there are enhancements that are slightly worse. Like the two of them together make a tech marine, but you can't have them in one person, which is
It's a bit of an odd
very
one.
annoying.
I guess an approach they could take this in future is maybe taking the approach they took recently with the Eldar Corsair style detachments, where they're starting to give enhancements to stuff that aren't already characters. Because then you could go, this vehicle, I've upgraded it to become a psyker, or something like that, where you actually kind of thousand sunsify the vehicles a little bit more in the rules.
Yeah. Oh, the other two enhancements were was it Warp Curse Rune Master, which gives you range on your rituals, your near vehicles. Really not that worth it, to be honest.
Maybe like a
Uh,
Demon Prince, I don't know.
yeah. And then the other one, which was Warp Siphon, which can give how was it? If the bearer channels the warp within, oh, they basically if you're rolling the perils, you can basically take the damage on the vehicle rather than the actual character. It's
Hmm.
again like the thing is your characters are mostly in rubric squads anyway, so it's not enough to justify like it doesn't matter. You can already take it on another rubric, so it's fine. You don't need to worry about taking it on a vehicle. As the actual like stratagems of the detachment, I mean, was it like you can hex marked armor lets you you can worsen AP by one. That's still again that's always kind of a good one.
That's just our template for
But
vehicles, I guess, yeah.
yeah, good for vehicles to be fair because obviously they don't have invulns like particularly like the Predator Annihilator or like some of the things I have on the tanks. Obviously they're generic like chaos tanks because we don't have any like Thousand Suns unique ones, so it could be quite stops you from getting an AP minus 3 or 4 one that could actually wreck you. You can mutate an objective with mutate landscape, and
I
let's
do like
see,
that one.
it means like it turns it into like it's like the one for the stations where like it turns it into like a little mine, doesn't it? Like it takes
Yeah.
D3 mortals on a 4 out, which is very annoying because on the other ones it just takes D3 mortals if you take the objective. So
So this is just the new Corsair detachment rule, except their detachment rule is any of the Corsair units, and it's on a 2-up.
hmm. I mean, there's the thing is the problem as well. There's one there's a smattering of ones that are like not unique going forward, which is like there's fallback cybernetic machinations, fallback shoot and charge.
It's
That's
okay.
okay, but again, but our vehicles are not good enough to warrant this. Even the secretile robots count as vehicles, but they like hit on fours with certain things. So it's like, oh man, is it even worth it? You can was it malevolent animus in your command phase? Start of your command phase that vehicle is malevolent. Lovely to know, and ignores all modifiers. Very very situational. Uh, and then
Uh,
what's that one? I ignores all modifiers.
so it's a weird one because it's
Yeah,
modifiers to weapon skill, ballistic skill, and rolls. So not AP, but everything else. Oh, and not damage. It doesn't ignore monster damage.
could get past things that have stealth, but you already have access to a thing that lets you reroll the hit roll through your
Yeah.
army rules. So just not. I mean, like, in general, the way I would improve this detachment is like it was more. It's not just a vehicle detachment; it's a monsters and vehicle one. So I'd take some of the parts that buff up like the Mooselet, like the Mooselet Vortex Beast and the vehicles in this one should be the ones that are kind of like taking like it's almost like Tyranids have like big bugs. There should be a thing of like big vehicles. So like our the Defiler, so that new one which should be very nice. Defiler, the Mooselet Vortex Beast, the tanks, or like because already our Rhino is actually pretty bloody good. So or if you have again we have the generic ones like Forge Fiend or Mauler Fiend. Like I think that's kind of where they should go or should have gone a bit more with this one. Whereas I think they unfortunately went down the route of basically saying we need a vehicle detachment because that's what people are expecting. Um, or like find some way to in some way turn your characters into like proper tech marines, or they're bloody Thousand Suns. They should be better than a normal tech marine rather than I have to give a already expensive character an enhancement to become a slightly worse tech marine. So I don't really. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I didn't have much interest in this one, to be honest.
I like it conceptually. I just wish some of the power levels of things were higher. Like it's odd that there's multiple enhancements that are sort of parts of a tech marine rather than having them all give the loan up thing and then a bonus effect. I feel like that'd be a better way to do it potentially. Um, and also you missed out the most important part, which is that all the vehicles blow up on a fiber.
Yeah, but again, like nothing, like they're all no, like it's just not like if the mutant vortex speed blows up, it's like I think it's a D6 plus something or D6 damage. Whereas that's the part that's missing. Like it's just not good enough on your
Yeah,
vehicles. Like if it was like if we had like a crazy big vehicle, God forbid, like something I could do like D6 plus whatever, like that would be so good. But yeah, it's and again like not guaranteeing it, whereas other detachments have things that guarantee it.
yeah,
Really, just unfortunately, not bonita, not good enough for me in that one. Again, I think I like the idea of it, but
yeah. I
it's
think
goes are good, good.
I think I'd be curious to see if the new Defiler model will change anything here. Like, I wonder if its rules or weapons are going to change at all, because that might be something to add to the vehicle range you have here, potentially. Because the current Defiler is basically just not played, period.
Maybe they'd have to give it a rule update because I don't even know what the current rules for R1 are because nobody
It's
takes them.
nightmarish. It's a dinner plate. It has the generic walker thing where it can walk over terrain that's less than 4 inches in height that no one uses unless they play on Games Workshop terrain.
Yeah, unfortunately, again with 10th, the amount of terrain everywhere, like it just doesn't fit.
Now,
We already have some big characters, so
I'm looking at the
there's
data sheet
not.
quickly. The other thing it has going for it is that Overwatch is on fives or on fours if it's near a Psyker, which it will want to be in this detachment anyway. But eh.
Could it be you've got better options for Overwatch in Thousand Suns?
Yeah,
So
and you can put a flamer on the defiler anyway.
yeah, it's like even the Muted Vortex Beast has a flamer, so it's a but when you're using attachments that are more CP hungry, like it's not gonna pop up. I think they could improve this one by like adding it to monsters as well. Like they make a monster and vehicle one. Like in
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
guess they didn't want to do that because they want that to be kind of the mutant detachment theme, I suppose, because a lot of the monsters in this army, other than the demon princes, are mutants.
Yeah, but again, like because with the our range is so small, brother. Like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
so small. So
Struggle.
it's yeah, the struggle is real.
Okay, what else
There's
have we
only
got? We've got
Hex Warp Thrall Band is the
yeah. You kind of touched on this one because the issue largely, I guess, for the Rubiks was the reroll wound of one is kind of wasted on them. So I guess if you wanted to play this, my first impression would be that you'd kind of want to not focus on the rubric marines and instead focus on the other stuff that would benefit more from it.
this one. I know nobody plays this one. It is the most redundant one. Like what's the army rule on this one, which was again re-rolling. Yeah, basically like yeah, creating areas of flows of magic, so controlling more objectives than your opponent lets you re-roll wound rolls of one. Only if you're in the area. Yeah, the fact that most of your like all of your battle line already does this is complete. Like I don't know what somebody was smoking when they were creating this one. Quite frankly, this is ridiculous. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame because I think they could do something. Like honestly, this one could just be just redo the whole thing. Like, it just makes no sense.
This is a
There's
strange
a
one.
few there's a few interesting ish like again because nobody it doesn't deserve the limelight almost for what it has, but there's a few interesting things that did have on it, which was plus strength to your psychic weapons, which is okay. Like or yeah, +2 while the barriers unit is in flow of magic. It's all right, but you had a better enhancement in Grand Coven, which is +1 and +1 damage. So
Hmm.
you're already missing out there. I mean,
I mean, I guess
I don't-
I guess you're plus strength and +1 to wound because if you're in flow of magic, you're also +1 to wound.
yeah, but like, but then grand like other detachments are already doing
Yeah,
this and doing it better.
yeah.
That's the bad side. I mean, like if I look at the other enhancements, I don't know if I even feel drawn to any of these ones. like some of them have like +3 attacks to psychic range. I mean, a lot of time you are running the sorcerer, the regular sorcerer, who already has an ability to do that each game. So I don't know how much you really needed an extra 3. Like it wasn't like we're not desperate for attacks. We're desperate for things that are more like in the wound roll sort of thing. You know, like yeah, like number of attacks. Like, you already do high damage. It's not you're already
Yeah,
killing something. Like it's a bit overkill on something rather than
I
well, like
suppose.
I was
I,
like,
su-
good, good.
I suppose it's quite nice with the sustained hits 3 gun, which is quite funny, but because there'll be sus 3 lethals with 9 shots with that once a game effect.
It could be a ridiculous amount, but the only downside, like that gun doesn't get access to ignores cover. So
No,
it's only -1 AP as well, damage 1. So
just
you
just roll an 11 plus to get +2 AP, I guess.
you can give yourself more AP. That's the thing, but
Yeah,
it's it'd be. I think you're already overkilling it at this point. What's the other one? Like Noctilus Mantle, which lets your models cannot be selected to use rituals. But then
but you're
it
always
gives
in flow of
you
magic.
that is just a debuff. Like it is a horrible debuff, to be honest.
It's a
'Cause
strange one. Are there any characters in Thousand Suns that don't care about rituals that you wouldn't bother using them on, or are they all?
you kind of well, because you have so few units on the battlefield, you actually need them all to be doing a ritual
Mm,
at least. You can do it from your sergeants, I guess, to be fair, but it's the whole unit. So I mean, yeah, it just I don't know what like, you see what I mean, where like nobody plays as Grot in this detachment style thing. Like it's so
yeah,
bizarrely
I,
redundant.
if I'm to put myself in like the Games Workshop designer's shoes to think about why this ended up this way, my guess would be is that it started out in a similar vein to that one Grey Knights detachment that has the same theme of like control a certain number of objective markers to get a buff.
What main task force? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But my guess is they probably tested that and went, what ends up happening is people just take a million rubrics in this instead of doing it in rubric A phalanx. And they probably did this to avoid that being the case. Because if you give those
Maybe,
rubrics
yeah.
like +1 to wound and something else, like +1 AP or something, maybe it became too strong. And they were like, we want people to play rubric spam in the rubric detachment and not here, would be my guess. But
I had a I
yeah.
had a guess at the time, which was that the this was written. I think a lot of the Grottos ones are written long before the Codex's stuff. I think the Thousand Suns Codex, which came out quite a while after this one, we thought at the time like, oh, this might be an indicator that
Oh, yeah.
rubrics will no longer re-roll the wound roll or re-roll wound rolls of 1, which didn't turn out to be the case. So essentially, like in the index, it was kind of redundant that we thought, oh, it might get really good when the codex comes out. Nope, nope, just no. Which is again, we still eat good as Thousand Suns players. We have a few good attachments at this point, and hopefully, I'm hoping with like the the end campaign stuff they're doing now. In the last book, we might get a Thousand Suns. Maybe some chaosy ones at least. I think because we do have from one of the fewest attachments. Like again, if people are playing Thousand Suns, the downside is like you kind of don't have access to as many detachments as like a lot of the other armies. Like I mean, how many do Necrons have at this point? It's something like 10 or something stupid, isn't it?
It's a few,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's. I mean, if I go through this one, just like looking at, if I try and find ones that are worth mentioning in terms of stratagems, you can. If that fight on death for Thousand Suns again, horrific choice for an army to have a fight on death because it's like our melee is not good.
Are
You
they
can
are the melee psychic attacks? Because then I guess at least they could benefit from the flow of magic rule.
only the sorcerers
Are
who
the
don't have it
okay?
only so they don't have enough to like again they don't have a huge number of attacks in as in like that are worth. Some of them could be damage D3, which is gonna be really annoying,
Oh,
or like
okay. Yeah,
damage 2 if you're
yeah. I was
lucky.
looking at like scarab occults and stuff and seeing if their swords are psychic. They're not just the sergeants. Is okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I can see any way to turn them into psychic. Oh, there is a fallback shoot or fall back and declare a charge, which I think you only use, which is not as good as the A.K.A. one, which is like fallback, shoot, and charge, which you really need to be shooting in Thousand Suns. You really need to be shooting. Um, through the
Mhm.
Vail, reinforcement step, movement phase, you can take them Ruby Marine or Scarabs in reserves and deep strike them. Well, like you can do that into your flow of magic. Oh, which makes it you can deep strike them 6 inches away from an enemy rather than doing a 9,
Yeah, so
which
it's
is
like
something you can do in like Warpbane. Yeah, you can do that in Warpbane as well.
yeah, it's like the Shadow of Chaos style deep strike.
It's okay. I don't
It
mind that one,
seems
but
fine.
situational. And then shooting fate, which is scouring warp flame, which is in your flow of magic, you gain ignores cover, and after they shot, pick an enemy unit they've hit, and they can't get the benefit of cover the rest of the phase. Which is very interesting, considering a lot of all your battle line has ignores cover anyway. So
Yeah,
it's more for all your Scarab Occult Terminators, but usually if you're that close with your Scarab Occult Terminators, you are like, I don't know if they need it. Like, you're that close with your Scarab Occults that they probably don't get cover anyway. Again, I don't know. This is the problem with this one. Like, you can see the redundancies in this one, and then
yeah.
there's Kaleidoscopic Tempest, which is it's like a model they pit gets stealth until the end of the phase, and if they're in a flow of magic, they get the benefit of cover.
Like
It's okay.
reading through these like strats and the detachment rule and stuff, my immediate like if I was to build a list for this, my brain goes to like I'm gonna put some Rubric Marine squads in to start in reserves to use the 6-inch deep strike strat to score points and stuff, and then use other units that benefit more from the detachment rule. But that feels weird for an army with such few data sheets. If there was another unit that wasn't the standard battle line, it would make a lot more sense, I think.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say for people who are like listening, this is probably one that, as you can probably tell from the way we're talking about it, is to be avoided. And I honestly don't know what saves this one other than changing the entire rule about what flow of magic does.
I guess the big thing it does is this is technically another detachment that you can not even necessarily run vehicles in, but just pump up damage. Like this is if you want to kill, I guess like Catan, and you want to reroll hits, reroll ones to wound and +1 to wound against them, and just murder things. Maybe that's the niche of this, but
Probably needed a thing of like in Warpbane, the Grey Knights one, it lets you reroll hit rolls. And if it did it that way, it would let you have a different take on the Thousand Suns, where like it would encourage you to take the bolters more. And then if it stole one of the things from the other detachments, which was like you can make your bolters psychic, I think
yeah,
that would be the way to make it interesting, where it's like basically you're rerolling hit rolls and wound rolls with a lot of rubrics. So, or like basically allows you to do that with rubrics anyway. And like pre-rolling like +1 to wound is very like rerolling wound rolls of 1 is so redundant on Thousand Suns. Rerolling hit rolls would encourage you to take all the sorcerers who actually have a thing that hits, rather than a lot of them that just go straight to flamer weapons. That could be the way you could save it, but honestly, I'll be honest, brother, it might be in the bin. This one,
like
it
I,
might be in the bin.
it does feel like one of those rules where I think a good player could make it work okay, but you're probably not maximizing your efficiency by doing it. Like +1 to wound is a good rule, so it's probably one of those attachments where you're probably ignoring mostly the wound the wound reroll part, and just playing it for the +1 to wound part. If you do play it, that would be my guess. Um,
It just it really suffers from the problem of like the other detachments are way more interesting and they are way more powerful and have way better synergy. This one, yeah, it's unfortunate, but luckily, like in staying with Thousand Suns, like they do have good detachments that are fun to play, and it's okay if there's a few duds. I'll be honest. I'm sure when you've done this a few of these episodes with other people, like there's some that are just a few duds. It's
yeah,
okay, it's fine, and I think we're only going to get more exciting ways to play them probably going forward.
oh for
I
sure.
would say, like, did you have a section at the end where you talk about like 11th edition, like what you like hope for the army or stuff like that?
Yeah, we can touch on that in a sec. I guess
That's
the last thing to touch on first would
yeah.
be technically the Siege Demon one, right?
Oh, I forgot that one even
Yeah,
happened.
we've got
Oh,
chain
yeah,
ships.
so, yeah.
Now,
Change
Admittedly,
those. That's it. Yeah.
admittedly, if I recall, they did buff this a bit. Like, because I believe if originally the demons couldn't use the army rule, right? But now they can. They can cast spells? Question mark.
Yes, I do believe that is what happened, and there was some buffs to the Lord of Change and to Kairos Fate Weaver, but that's more of like people only play the Zinchian demon detachment, like from as in like the actual Chaos Demons one, rather than Change Host. It's the annoying thing with demons as an add-on in a lot of these Chaos armies, where they you only get like 1,000 points of them, so you can't. Like, I don't know why there has to be that limit. It's very, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. I don't see the need necessarily, and it would be cool to kind of have a thing of like, oh, there's like it's all birds, including Magnus. You know, just read randomly. It'd be so fun. Actually, what's the detachment rule again on this one? It was, I think, was it the fact that you could take 1,000 points?
That's part of it. So you get more than usual. I
Yeah,
think usually you get up to 500, right? And then if you're within 6 of a Psyker Invisible, you get a 4 of him rolling against ranged attacks, like on your non-demon stuff. So it's a bit like the Emperor's Children one, because in that one it's if you're within 6, you get sustained hits, but in this one it's more you get 4 of him roll.
oh yeah, it could be. Yeah, good for rubrics because they are 5 up invuln normally, but you do
Mm.
get 4 up invuln from like a lot of your sorcerers. So very situational. But I was really like, yeah, Zangor is getting 4 up. I don't know about that, but that could be very interesting. In
It's
terms of
funny,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean
You
that's a
could,
decent side ability.
yeah, you could give the Zangor Shaman's unit a 4 of him on. That is funny. I don't know if it's good.
Looking at the enhancements, I love their naming here. Like Nether Shriek Mind Eater is a really good name.
That's a good
Which
name.
is if someone within 12 forced to take a battle shock, and if they fail to take 3 mortal wounds,
Yeah,
really
sure.
pretty quite good towards the end of the game necessarily if your guy's still alive. A Diabolic Savant. These names are really good on this one.
Honestly, Zinch
Uh,
Demon in general, their naming is great. Like, have you seen their detachment stuff? It's like the in the Demons Index. The naming is just insane. Um,
I haven't had that much dabble in that because I don't really own any demon like models. I'm more of a you know, when I start my fourth army or something like ridiculous, you know, maybe, but I think a lot of the unfortunately the demons for Zinch are they're very outdated. I think, ugh,
uh,
bit annoying.
the big ones are okay. It's the little ones that are a
Oh yeah,
bit,
yes,
yeah,
the horrors are.
yeah.
Yeah, those faces are interesting. Oh, the Diabolic Savant, which was lets you +1 to your psychic tests, which is useful, but I don't know. They did change it with that won't stack with a Museless +1 as well, which is
It's
it probably used to stack because they used to have like things where you could stack them, but they changed it. Like you only have a maximum of +1 to your stacking.
uh, does that apply here? I thought that only applies if it's the same named aura. Like you might be able to stack this because it's technically a different rule. Whereas with the Muselith, since it's the same aura name, I
I think
don't
they
think.
changed it. So if you look on the Museless like data sheet, I think it says like it. Well, I think like one of them can't add to another. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not super familiar if it's this attachment because again, like not many people are even touching this one for some reason.
I know
So
some people. I know some people were trying this one. I don't know if they had success or not, but that's partly because of the buffs to the Lord of Change and the other one, the other name chicken. Uh,
Kairos, yeah,
there is one
Kairos.
thing. There is one thing there that irks me, which is that for some reason, in some cases, Games Workshop decides to nerf the point values of them here, even though they nerf them because of the Zinch detachment version, so that they're the same
Yeah,
points. But then, like, if you look at
I,
like Imperial Agents, they nerf Draxus there, but not in the Codex. Not that agents need a nerf, but the consistency is a bit odd.
I'm just seeing the next one, which is it sounds insane, which is duplicitous malediction because Ironman lets you redeploy 3 units,
We deploy
and
three more.
apparently it's saying you can redeploy 6,000 units. I
Wait,
don't know if you even need that
other
if you have this enhancement on character.
I assume the demons don't have the Thousand Suns keyword, so you can't do it to them.
Uh, I'm not. Yeah, I don't. Well, it only works on Thousand Suns units. Yeah, so you can't even redeploy any of the demons. Oh well,
That's unfortunate.
that's
I was
yeah.
hoping you could just put 3 chickens in deep strike and then say my entire army is off the board.
Tome of True Names. You can once a battle get a 2-up invuln save for a phase.
It's an infantry model though.
For dream model, yeah. Which
That's funny.
maybe that is quite nuts. But only for once per battle, which is obviously balanced, but that's hilariously situational.
Have you seen the
It
names of
could
the
be cool.
strats? We have Chrono Sorcerous Bleed.
Gee, yeah, they go. What is that one? Using opponent's charge phase right after they declare a charge, subtract two. Okay, but they have that in other detachments, I think.
Yeah,
Thousand
it's
Suns.
fine.
It's good for like things coming out of Deep Strike. Giving
Oh
someone a
god.
cheeky 11 is
Ugh.
they deserve that. Glimmer Shift Portal, again, great name, which is pick up 2 monster scintillating units or a single Lord of Chains that's 3 inches away from an enemy, and then put them into reserves. Also, your classic, like, put you into reserves and then,
So the issue
yeah.
with this strat is if you want to do this, you're better off doing it in the Zinch version of the detachment, in the Demons Index, because the one they have there lets you pick up 2 even if they're in combat, as long as you spend one of the tokens.
Yeah, again, it's only the monster units, isn't it? Yeah, so you can't do it on your
Oh, you can't do it on the
blueprints
birds anyway.
either.
Oh, it's even worse then. Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Practical Disjunction. God, the name. When synthetic units, Legion units, are targeted in the opponent's shooting phase, you cannot target them unless they're within 18. It doesn't work on monsters, so Kairos, yeah. So it only work on your like horrors and I think your flying little
Yeah.
what they call the little monsters. I forgot what their name is, but that'd be the flying little things of Zinch. 18
Reading.
inch.
Oh, sorry.
Uh,
I'm reading Ethereal Phantasm, and this one bothers me a lot because looking at it, it's like, oh, you can use the reactive move on the big demons, and then it says you can move flat 6, but only if you're wholly within 6 inches of a Thousand Suns unit. Have you tried getting a big demon wholly within 6 inches of anything ever? It's not easy.
No, it's again with like particularly if it's like Kairos or a Lord of Change, that's just not gonna happen.
Their base is like 4.5 inches across, isn't it?
It's yeah. Was it souffle? Oh God, I can't even pronounce that word.
Sulphurous?
Sulphurous. God, that's the word, isn't it? Sulphurous Veil. Might want to hit for the rest of the phase.
That's fine.
So that's like yeah, it's fine. And then Deceptive Glamour, which is choose a Thousand Suns unit from your army at the start of the fight phase. They are untargetable so long as one of your scintillating Legion units is an eligible target. Uh, that could be quite interesting, I think, but
Oh,
again, I'm not familiar.
this strat is good if it was 1 CP.
Yeah, I mean, it also requires like a lot of this army. I think requires like you basically just are like everything is walking in pairs, which is very.
Yeah.
I think even now, seeing now, like it doesn't let you have access to damage buffs, which is
No.
really like, and again, like with how heavy like our points costs are, like it just is. I think that's the ultimate thing I would change about it. Like it doesn't have access to something that like basically lets your damage synergize. Like say if you're within something of a 6 inches of demons, it lets you actually do more damage, like or something. That could be a
Yeah.
thing where it's actually worth it, rather than this all feel like some of these strats feel very, very situational or not enough to justify. Like I don't know if it's not enough to justify taking any of this over some of the other things that are already on offer and other things. So
Suppose the one thing it has going for it over the playing this just as index demons is that you can use the army rule to give yourself +2 AP in hit rerolls, which you don't have access to for the big demons otherwise.
yeah, which could
But
be quite nice.
yeah.
But I think obviously with that Kairos and the Lords of Change going up in points, it's because they made their shooting like quite good. But like if they're designed in some ways to like replace like the points cost of like a Magnus, it's not a. I don't like. I think it could like there's someone could have another crack at this, and I think they could generally make an interesting list, like an interesting go at this. I just not. I would probably struggle to in some way like inject interest in it because a lot of these stratagems are there's no like big one or two of them, which is like that's an absolute must have. You know what I mean? Like these are all
Mm.
very like
They're all
middle.
very usable, but not scary.
Yeah, but as you can see, a few you know, not everyone is an absolute banger, but I will probably at least until 10th, the final bell of 10th ring, I'll probably switch between Grand Coven and Rubrique Phalanx just because it's so much more of a fun experience. It's a shame though because they really could do something with this to I think like it's demons. Like make it crazy. Do something like ridiculous. Like someone can't shoot, or like shoots their own unit or something.
So
Like
in
yeah.
the Demon's Index version of it, like, have you ever read through that detachment? It's completely whack.
I haven't had a crack at it. No,
So
I'm not.
it's
Not very familiar.
that detachment is you start with a number of like reroll tokens. People use tokens to represent them usually, and when you use one of them on your demons, you give one to your opponent, and you get benefits from your opponent having them, and you can also spend them to buff up your strats. So, for example, there's the uppy downy strat, and if you spend a token, you pick stuff up that's in combat and stuff like that. It's a lot of you're playing mind games with your opponent, where they like if they don't spend all the tokens, they're not getting the rerolls, but if they do, you get them back, and that's horrifying for them
Yeah.
because then they're firing at like a Lord of Change, and you're saying I have 4 rerolls to my save.
God, I think that's the problem that they nailed it somewhere else, and this is almost they felt that like yeah, that's the problem. There's a it's the better version of it. It's just sitting behind. Like oh we've got discount Ryan Gosling and Ryan Gosling's in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the other one has more of a flavor win, whereas this one feels fine, and it's probably the way I guess to go if you want to ally them in this army, maybe because they won't benefit from much elsewhere. But yeah, it's fine.
Eh.
Eh,
It's a F from me.
for me. Okay, so I guess to round out, what would you like going towards 11th? I guess 10th we had there was some box sets and there was the statue guys, which you briefly touched on.
Yeah, because I'm excited for this section because I get to say my statement that I've been preparing for this, which is we are already an exciting army to play in some sense. The only thing I would like, we already get so much good with Thousand Sun, like so much is already done correctly. I would say, like with all pro armies, a few detachments need tweaking to have a few more, like instead of being too specialized because our range is too small, like have them a bit more expansive, rather than being like other armies have a large enough roster where they can play into niches, like Tyranids especially or something. But we don't have that in Thousand Suns, so don't hem things in too much. The big thing I would say going to 11th is more options in terms of enhancements and in general, I think across maybe like other even armies, like enhancement should be a thing of the. Yeah, I think most of us were only limited to four, aren't we? Yeah, most things are just four. So the idea of like ninth had like a ridiculous amount of things, but I think it could be that where there's a maximum of three enhancements you take in an army, but say we have access to like 10. Like each army's got an access to like, well no, not every detachment, but maybe eight is a reasonable number. I know I'm wishing on a star here, but the idea is like you can only take a maximum of three, and therefore the enhancements really specialize like your characters and your armies into those play styles. So the idea of particularly if there's like the detachment to like four vehicles or something, maybe there is like enhancements in that one which either let you focus on like the melee side of it or ones that are buffing shooting or or do like crazy things where basically you get to shoot again, or something like ridiculous where it really makes the army feel a bit more unique in the particular style you're playing in, because then that opens up so many ways in which you could basically keep coming back to play in the army, and it feels like a fresh experience every time. But you also don't have to go out and buy every single unit under the sun. It's all the units that you have, and they can just do so many different types of things if you want to specialize them in that way. And I say, lastly, we also need a few more models to be added to the roster. I had an idea, which was one of they do a lot of those things now where like some units are like operating in groups of three, aren't they? Like Blade Guard or like Inner Circle Companions and other things.
Yeah, or even like I guess on the chaos side you have like flawless blades and like 8
Yeah,
bound.
we need that for Thousand Suns, and it'd be really cool if we had if we could have three sorcerers on discs or something, like going around as like a crazy or we have three solar cannon rubrics or something, or like some. I think the idea of there's an extra unit that is our version of an elite thing. I think that would be good to expand the roster, and also demon engines. Absolutely need more like Zinchian, like it's Zinch, bro. Like make a crazy Lovecraftian demon engine, like not just the Defiler, but something where I think we often suffer from the fact like a lot of our we don't have like a version of a tank that's we're like super into. You know what I mean? We need we need a good tank, man. Something. The Thousand Suns must have tanks. So I
the,
would
be-
say like in terms of
the,
oh,
be-
okay, good.
the best we can offer you is a box on threads.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we'll get that much love in the future in terms of model range, but I would say for a lot of, I hope they keep a lot of the stuff from 10th in terms of like play style and the way they've prioritized like character units and other things, because it makes it feel like each character can be unique and special. And the army feels powerful, it feels fun to play, it has shenanigans. I hope they just basically increase the depth of what we currently have rather than like redesign it. But like other people want to redesign their armies in other ways. I don't want this to change too drastically because it already does something fun. It's okay. I'm not playing Warhammer like every single day. Like I don't mind taking a bit of time off and coming back to it and being like, oh, I had a really fun game trying out something different. So that would be my answer basically, which is find ways to specialize the characters and maybe a few tweaks on some of these detachments if they supposedly roll over into 11th, I'd say.
All right.
Did you have any final thoughts of there's been an absolute like wave of Thousand Suns injected into your brain. So
Yeah,
is there any
I'm
like
gonna have nightmares
closing
about this now.
any closing feelings?
I mean, largely, I think I agree. I mean, I'm personally someone who quite enjoys stuff getting scale updated. So if they ever updated the scale of like the base infantry, I would be very, very tempted because I do like the aesthetic a lot. I do definitely agree that demon
Yeah.
engine, like I think demon engines are something they seem like they're revisiting at the moment with the Defiler, and potentially maybe down the road we'll see like a new Hellbrute and stuff like that, which might be interesting to see. Although they are data sheets that already exist, is the one downside there.
Yeah, but I'll say as a final plea to the listeners, it is again, it's not going to fix all your problems in life, but a Thousand Sun Army is very fun. I'll just say that it's just very fun.
He's like,
And
buy my
it
army.
doesn't have to do much more than that. I don't think you'll feel the frustrations you'll get with many other armies of like, oh, I've got to buy that, got to buy that thing, got to buy that thing. It's just an army they're fun wizards and they are good at shooting, and you're gonna have a fun time playing with them.
Yeah, just not with painting the trim.
Definitely not that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Hal, for coming on. As usual,
Thank you, man.
if
Thank
people have
you.
made it this far into the video, you can find both of our channels somewhere down below if you are somehow here 2 hours in still.
Yeah, apologies, boys.
That's all right. But we love a good yap. All right. So thanks again to Mr. Amber King, A.K.A. Hal. And we'll see you all later.
Bye.